Jersey Department of Corrections, close to 80% of the prison population is comprised of people of color. That brings us here today with filmmaker Lori Ursulmaz, whose production company, Voices of Hope, is depicting the lives of those returning from prison, and already her films are having an impact in the community. You screened 2 documentaries at the Paul Robeson Center at Rutgers, Newark, and it involved the prison reentry process. So if you could talk to us today about those 3 films.
Well, thanks so much for offering to interview me about these, because I really want more people to know about reentry, because I think it's something that's really not spoken about very often. The 2 films I worked on were for the American Friends Service Committee, and they are a Quaker organization. They're actually an international organization. The 2 films, one was Nowhere to Go, and the other one is Healing Justice, Transformed Lives. And Nowhere to Go chronicles some of the issues around housing and what happens when people are re-enter back into society. Where do they go? And usually there are very few options for them. Healing Justice is something that really is close to my heart, because I wanted to show that there were many people who were formerly incarcerated who have come back into society and have done well.
I'm not going to violate the law. I'm not going to start using drugs. I'm not going to abuse women, abuse society. So success to us that have served tremendous amounts of time, in the penitentiary, is staying free, staying healthy, wearing clean clothes, having a roof over your head, staying strong, being happy, enjoying your life, eating good, living good, and that's success.
I don't have a lot of money. I mean, I have a home, but I have family, and I have grandchildren, and I have that sort of richness in the life that most men in prison say they want.
How did you become involved in these projects?
I started out in the addiction field, and I saw that there was a lot of stigma, discrimination against people who had substance abuse problems. And then I started realizing, I went to a Counting the Cost hearing, which was a hearing that was held by Assemblywoman Bonnie Watson Coleman, who at that time was the majority leader. She was holding these very democratic cost hearings across the state, where she brought people out to provide testimony to other elected officials about some of the reentry problems. And I happened to be covering that for the National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence, New Jersey. And while I was there and I heard the testimony, I heard one young man who spoke about the fact that he was in prison, he got back, he's out of prison, trying to get a job, and he's having lots of problems.
By me serving my debt to society by being incarcerated, it's not fair for me to come home and not be able to get a job. It's just a revolving door. I go back outside in society, I can't get a job, that leads me back to whatever I was doing.
He said he wanted to do well, he paid his debt to society, and he was having trouble. And having trouble would lead him right back to prison again, and he didn't want to go there. And so that's why he had come out to provide testimony, to talk with people. And once I heard that, I had to do something. I felt like, I got to get involved. I need to know more about reentry. What is this all about? And so I did. I got involved with the New Jersey Institute for Social Justice. I believe in policy and getting more involved as a concerned citizen in policy issues. And I learned more about reentry through the Second Chance campaign and the Counting the Cost hearings that they were having.
Faith-based organizations are very involved in this whole prison reentry process. Can you tell me how you come to be affiliated with the state office of faith-based initiatives?
Well, really, I'm not affiliated with them directly. It's indirectly. It's through the American Friends Service Committee, who gets their funding from the faith-based initiative. And it turns out that there was a resource center, a prison resource center in Newark for a very long time. And unfortunately, because of funding issues that we're going through right now, they had to close that center. And they had some additional funds left over. And they decided that the best way to use the funds was to create some type of story, some type of documentary that would educate the public, would help engage people who were helping formerly incarcerated people, would help potentially people that were in prison as well. So create some kind of documentaries that could be used for a wide audience in different ways.
I was once an ex-offender. I used to sell drugs. I was a drug dealer.
I began selling drugs, and then I began using drugs.
I was addicted to heroin and going in and out of prison trying to support a drug habit.
I was selling a lot of coke.
At a young age, I was found guilty and convicted of a drug-related homicide. And I served over 20 years in the penitentiary.
When I see a flashback of my life with someone else, it immediately stops me dead in my tracks. And I tell them, this is not the life you want to live. This is not the life for you.
This whole thing can be turned around.
You can do this. It's possible. And you know how I know it's possible? Because I did it.
We made the films for a broad audience, but we'd like different kinds of groups to be able to use them differently. Certainly the faith-based institutions should be using these films. They're doing a lion's share of the work, and we think it's a great tool for them.
So you're looking at counties, you're looking at cities, you're looking at leaders from mayor's offices to state governors and from mental health agencies, churches, which have for years been doing this work without anybody's assistance.
We have to marry in the probation department, the drug courts, the parole. Everybody's part of the family.
And I know state legislators have really taken up the cause in really taking a look at this societal issue that we're dealing with now with incarceration, especially among so many people of color. So would you be able to tell me anything about some of the legislation?
Sure. Well, there was a lot of support to get some bills passed in January, and that was one of the first things that I worked on. You asked about the films earlier. One of the other films that's on there is called The Failed System, and The Failed System documents an event that we got the community to come out and give their side, and also we had a panel with Senator Beck and two formerly incarcerated individuals who spoke about some of the problems.
I'm an ex-offender, been out since 1998. Before an individual comes back, you have to restructure them. Got to build them up. If you saying go out here and do something different, then they have to leave the institution with something different. And the biggest thing is the mindset. Jail is nothing, man. I'll tell you lies if I tell you jail is all scary and all that. You're going to adapt to your situation. But I want to tell you the full story is, like, you will lose your mind if you ain't cognitive. If you ain't strong spiritually or have some type of foundation, you will lose your mind and come out of there broken because of what comes with it, the stigma.
I've been off parole for 15 years almost and still went to apply for a job in Food Town and they told me no. I've got 4 children now. I'm a wife now. How long does society keep putting me down for what I did 15 years ago? That's the problem. Stop pointing your finger at what they did and help them get from where they are.
In all spheres of administration and law enforcement and people who are supposed to be in a position to assist in helping ex-offenders get to where they need to be, there are some who brutalize people. But that breaks people's spirit and their motivation and their drive to move forward, and then we wonder why they reoffended.
We have helped those inmates that couldn't read or write. We assisted them in reading and writing so that they would be able to take a GED while in prison. Society didn't like the idea that we was able to get an education free in prison and they had to pay for it. So what it did was stopped us once again from coming out with the ability to compete in society.
By bringing people out, by the majority leader, Bonnie Watson-Coleman, bringing people out for testimony, that I think created a buzz. I think there was press about it. There were a lot of people that came out and spoke. There were other elected officials that in the different districts and the different communities and counties throughout New Jersey, different ones came out and listened to the problems.
We're not trying to make it easy on crime. We're trying to make it better for the people of the state of New Jersey.
So there were 3 bills that actually did get a lot of support from citizens. There were courageous legislators who supported the bills, including Senator Beck, and 3 specific bills were passed. One of them was strengthening Women and Families Act, and that establishes a commission to strengthen the bond between women, parents, and their children. And also it provides prisoners with information on child support modifications, which they didn't get previously. And it also prohibits putting men and women in the same institution. Another one was the Reduction of Recidivism Act, and recidivism means going back to prison. And this now provides inmates with the appropriate paperwork, ID, birth certificates. Previously, they weren't able to get that. It was very difficult for them to get a Social Security card. They needed passes to leave the prison, to get transportation home. And it also establishes a prisoner reentry commission. That as well started as of May 1st. And the last one is the Education and Rehabilitation Act. And previously, there's no standardization really in any of the prisons. And so some prisons do have some form of education and other ones don't.
If a man is 21 and under, that's the only ones can receive education. Everyone over 21 has to receive education through an outside course. Basically, the prisons today, I would say out of most of the prisons, 3/4 of the men are just housed on the unit all day long. There's really no educational programs. And if we've been keeping up with some of the cuts that the governor recently have done, most of those educational programs has been shut down in the major prisons. The only major prison that has educational and vocational tech is Southwood State Prison. That's the only one.
So now this allows for formerly incarcerated individuals to come back to the prison and provide some motivation and inspiration and hope for others that might be getting out. It establishes that the Department of Corrections, the Education Department, uses volunteers and technology and other private resources, and it mandates that all inmates participate in an education and a workforce training. So that's a big change, I think, that legislation. And that doesn't take place until August 1st. And the other thing that it gives them all some type of certificate so that while they were in prison, they were getting some type of education, they were getting some type of training, and then they have certification that shows that so that they can put it on a resume. There are some things, though, that didn't pass that still do need to be worked on. There's this thing called ban the box. On applications, when people apply for jobs, there's a box that they have to check if they were in prison. And that, I think, for many formerly incarcerated people is a real obstacle. The minute they either check the box, then their resume is just thrown away.
Finding employment is another difficult situation. When you're filling out applications, you have to check the box, whether and tell them if you've been convicted of a crime.
I spent 17 and a half years in prison myself, and I came out and I started this program to help people overcome the difficulties that I faced when I came out.
To come home and trying to adapt to society is very difficult.
Individuals are coming home truly unprepared. You have an individual that doesn't have any stability in the basic needs of any human being.
These men and women are coming out of jail and they have nowhere to go. They're homeless.
Some of them had to go back to drug-infested houses.
The other thing is that there's a phone surcharge. There's a lot of women who have to phone in to talk to their loved ones, and there's an extra surcharge to do so. It costs like twice or 3 times as much as it would cost us for a regular phone call, for people who are basically poor to be hijacked on a phone surcharge. So that really, I believe, needs to be changed as well. And there's many other things. I really encourage people to learn more. And that's why we have the films, because it helps to educate people on what some of these issues are, what some of the policy initiatives are going forward.
Long-term offenders come home with a laundry bag, with all their belongings, everything in life that they had for the last 10 or 15 years. That's the only thing they had. They ain't had no family. They ain't had nobody to receive them. The only thing they had was a knit bag with a bunch of pictures and some legal work or things, mementos that they saved from the prison. And they have to come out here in the society and make that transition, and no tools or nobody's here to receive them.
There's no help for women coming out of prison. We're pretty much on our own. We're thrown back into the houses of the abuser, of the abuses. We're put back in our old neighborhoods, because I certainly was. You know, I was put back in the middle of drugs.
Like when they put people on placement, people that don't have anywhere to go and the state has to put them on placement, they're putting them in areas that are drug infested. They're putting them in motels. I mean, you're going to take a recovering addict that has absolutely no support system and throw them in a crack den? Why? You're setting them up for failure.
They really don't have a place to go. So they may get an old girlfriend that says, okay, you can stay here for 2 weeks. Now an aunt says you can stay here for 2 weeks. And they're bouncing around and there's no stability.
They may be with a sister this week and be with a brother the following week, or be with a girlfriend, or even sleeping in a hallway.
I had a friend that was released that had nowhere to go, and I didn't have anywhere for her to go either. I mean, I was sleeping on a couch in a church office.
I don't have a place to stay. You know, I don't have a stable environment of my own. Like, I could probably go lay on my mother's couch, but who wants to do that? I'm a 40-year-old man. With so many doors shutting and not enough opportunities, then where's that going to leave me? What am I eventually going to be forced to do?
If you don't have a place to live, no matter how much desire you have, that desire gets crushed when, before you can be concerned about a job, you're looking for a place to just have a roof over your head.
So if we don't put in place some type of housing and be able to create jobs for them, they are going to go right back. That circle is going to go right back, and they're going right back into jail.
Paul Robeson event was really to celebrate the people that were in the film. I mean, we're really focused on the people who are involved in the issues, the people who have successfully reintegrated back into society, the ones that are also helping other people that are just coming out of prison, provide all kinds of solutions. And we really saw a lot of people come out and support the films. Our hope is to provide all the tools we can to engage all communities throughout the state in this discussion. And we're educating the people at the grassroots level how to use the films to engage in solutions and to get active with elected officials and to provide more solutions and more help to people who are just getting out of prison.
We're really trying to make it easy so that you capture the people in your own communities and in other communities throughout the state that are interested in acting. Because it's one thing to come and see a film and go, oh yeah, okay, now I know about this. But you want to engage people and you want to keep talking to them. After they've come